Perfect. So thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here talking with all of you. My name is Paulo Moncores. I am currently Director of Engineering at Vtex. Vtex is an enterprise e-commerce platform. Usually people say, hey, it's kind of Shopify. I would say yes, but like Vtex, their main focus is enterprise customers like Samsung, GM, Mazda, Walmart, big groups. They are our customers, and Shopify is kind of more focused on small merchants. I am director of engineering there, and I'm currently leading one of the tribes with more than 200 people. I'm originally from Brazil, and I had the pleasure to live for 4 years in Germany. And then after living 4 years in Germany, working different leadership positions. My last position there, I was director of engineering at Wayfair, like the furniture company in the e-commerce. I was leading all the data engineering, data science for Europe. And like the people say, right, it's too short to learn German. Then I got an offer from Shopify, where I was head of engineering at Shopify, leading Shopify Plus, that it was the enterprise version of Shopify. And then I moved to Vtex. And the topic that I will be talking today with you, I had the opportunity to work with small teams and growing to medium teams and growing to large teams and then leading large teams and then getting bigger, or when you are very small and then you start growing. So I would say today I would like to bring to you the enemies of growth in engineering teams. And I would like to start with a very important quotation here, that it's change is inevitable. Growth, it's optional, right? And in my journey as a leader of engineering, I learned that growth has certain enemies that we definitely need to know what is going on, right? Because growth is never automatic or guaranteed. Organizations don't naturally drift toward growth. They drift toward complexity, and decline. And I learned that if you are not intentionally preparing yourself for growth, you are unintentionally preparing for decline. And I would like to bring to you folks 4 enemies of growth. And doesn't matter how big is your organization, or if it's a small team, I see a pattern here, And the first thing, unnecessary complexity. I think this is the first enemy of the growth, is unnecessary complexity. Paulo, what is this? What are you talking about? Organizational simplicity, it's the way that we solve unnecessary complexity. Basically, it's what I said before. By default, when we are growing, we want to have more policies, more process, and more control of our organization. And then this starts becoming very hard for shipping, for scaling, and for growing. I will be talking later how can we defeat this enemy, but I can guarantee to you unnecessary complexity, it's definitely it's one of the main enemies. And we never can forget, the silent killer of growth, it's complexity, right? The second enemy of growth, it's lack of scalable process. Basically, I see organizations growing and they are not ready to onboard people. Their teams, they don't know the reason that they exist. They don't have metrics to see, okay, how I'm performing as a group, how I'm performing as a team. The products, they don't have metrics or data to get an understanding how it's going on. There is no strategy, there is no vision, there is no documentation about what is going on. Like I said, I'm not against process. Processes are good. I am against a bad process. This is what makes you slow down, right? So this is the second enemy. So the first one, unnecessary complexity. The second one, lack of scalable process, right? And then the third one, and this is very hard because when you have unnecessary complexity and then you have an scalable process, your folks in your organization, they start creating unhealthy mindsets that it's like the wrong way of thinking, because unhealthy mindsets creates unhealthy organizations. Like a few examples of unhealthy mindsets are like misinformation, misjudging of the reality, competition, disinterest, distraction, greed, a lot of gossip. So to defeat unhealthy mindsets, we need to cultivate a growth mindset. We need to make sure, like our organization, we are always looking to the future and we don't put ourselves in the positions of victims. But as leaders, we put ourselves in the position like, I am the driver of change. I can emancipate my folks, like to change the way that they think. Like, so I see like this is a very powerful enemy of growth, because like if you want to change your organization or your team, change how people think. Like this is extremely important. Mindset determines direction, right? This is a fixed mindset. It's willing to do more or change. Like we need to make sure that we have a growth mindset, that it's flexible and adaptable. Like a growth mindset in your team says like, we can get better, or I am not good at this yet. So let's not forget, unhealthy mindsets create unhealthy organizations, right? And the last one that I learned, and it was extremely hard, it was like underdeveloped leaders. This is hard. This is very hard, because underdeveloped leaders will eventually hold your team or your group back from growth. They will be outpaced by the growth around them and be left behind. I am a strong believer that like the potential of your organization rests on the strength of its leaders. Like for more on like we need to make sure that we are very, very intentional about growth. Like I think it's important to look around your team and making sure that you are giving adequate, important, and necessary feedback. Like, are you giving permission, like, for your team to fail? Like, growth will always takes risk and failure. Like, so we need to give room for our teams to fail. Like, this is one of the tricks to solve the problem of underdeveloped leaders, right, folks? So I spoke about like the 4 enemies, like just to recap: unnecessary complexity, unscalable process, unhealthy mindsets, and underdeveloped leaders, right? And here it's some quotes that I like to say, like, but Paulo, okay, you spoke about the 4 enemies of growth. You said what they are. We kind of agree, but how can we defeat that, right? How can we defeat the enemy of growth? The first thing, fight for a simple structure. Remember, growth creates complexity, and complexity is the silent killer of growth. challenge the status quo when you see change about, is this like, are we creating like more slack in our organization? Like, I am changing teams. I am like, what is the problem that we are trying to solve here? Like, what is the issue here? What we are optimizing for? Like, don't change for just the sake of changing. Like, challenging yourself, challenging your team to fight for something that is simple. Like, even if you have an organization with 200, 300 folks, like, in the small unit of the team, fight for simplicity, because this will move up, like, for sure. And if you are a leader like that, it's in a higher level, fight for simplicity, because this will cascade down, right? Organizational simplicity, this is what I was talking about. Make sure that you have the right staff in the right problems, right? And I love this quote here that is like, great organizations start losing their greatness when they start doing things that they don't add value. It's not about, like, I see teams growing and hiring, because it's very common, like, when I move it like to Europe or North America, when we talk about growth, especially in engineering, on tech, right? People say, we need to hire. Hurry. We need more people, because putting more people will do more and will do more. And you start seeing that people stop delivering value, because adding more people, it's not the key to solve problems to scale. Like, adding people, you are adding more complexity in your process. Your decision-making process, it's getting like longer and harder. So you need to make sure that you are optimizing for impact. At Shopify, when we were scaling our organization, like from 100 to 200, like Shopify has more than 5,000 people working there. In engineering, it's around 3,000 folks. We had like periods where we are definitely growing and hiring. And then we stop. Cool. Let's see if the staff that we have, we are getting the best from them. Let's see if we have the best onboarding process for them. Let's make sure our current staff, they are aligned with our mission. So let's optimize for impact, not for keeping people busy, because like engineers are expensive. Like, and sometimes you just grow, and you are giving projects just for the sake of giving project, right? So what I would like to challenge, like, even if you are in a small team, Paulo, I am not a manager, and like the other folks said before, you don't need a title to act like a manager. A leadership position, it's not given, it's taken. You need to behave like one, and then you, like, the promotion, it's just a matter of formality, right? So I would love to challenge the group, like, for kill a rule. Like, look at your organization and see what is the rule that doesn't make any sense to have. And if you don't know, talk to your team. I challenge you to talk to your team, because they will know. They will let you know, right? Second, cut a meeting. Like, especially now in this remote work, like, the number of meetings had increasingly, like, as crazy, challenging the status quo. At Vtex and also at Shopify, we had something very nice to do. Like, every 6 months, if you had a meeting with more than 2 people, we were cleaning all calendar of all collaborators, like, to not have this meeting anymore. They had to build again their calendars of meeting just to make sure, like, does that make sense? Should we keep having this meeting? Like, make sure that you are not just let's benefit from the remote work. Let's make sure that we are not just like, oh, no, now we are remote. Let's do all the things in the same way. So I challenge you, cut a meeting. The third thing, remove a policy. Like, Paulo, I don't have authority to remove a policy. But talk to your lead. Like, show him, hey, I think this policy doesn't make any sense. Like, let's rethink about that. I have a proposal. Come with a proposal, right? The fourth one, empower a person. Like I am educating myself to try to remove the word empowerment, because I believe the word empowerment, it's about leader to follower approach, and this is not good. We are all leaders, leader to leader. Emancipate people. Finding your team, like what are the things that you could emancipate other folks? Like, hey, why my team is not doing A or B or C without my support? What I should do to make them feel that yes, they can. What are the skills that are missing that I should have helped them, right? And the number 5, repeat the process. Like kill a rule, cut a meeting, remove a policy, empower a person. Repeat the process, kill a rule, cut a meeting, remove a policy, empower a person. This is my day as a director of engineering, like in a large organization like Vtex. It's a global, my teams are distributed in US, Canada, Europe, Brazil. Like my day, it's to make sure that I am moving the organization towards simplicity and not complexity. Like, because complexity is the silent killer of growth, organizational simplicity, and health mindset. So if you want to change your organization, change how people think. Thank you so much, folks.
One question I was going to put in the chat, but I'll just ask you now, Paulo. And I probably should have asked some of the other presenters and such. When you're kind of growing teams, what do you think, outside of what you've kind of mentioned today, what do you think is one of the most important lessons or valuable pieces of information that I think we learn from the moment of success and sometimes at the moment of failure in your journey to a director in engineering? What's one of the most valuable pieces of advice that you've kind of implemented in your own kind of role?
Yeah. The first one is you don't need to have all the answers, right? I think you are like growing leadership positions, growing your teams, like, oh my God, I am a superhero. I have to know everything. I cannot be vulnerable. Like, people connect with you because of your technical skills, like in management, or like even the hard skills about software development. But they respect you by that. They really connect with you because of your weakness. Like when you show that you are vulnerable, like when you show that you don't know, and like but you figure out. And the second thing, like I think it's extremely important, it's the density of talent, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you are growing, you need to keep the bar of talent high. Usually you need to get always higher, like and higher and higher, because this you make sure that your organization it's ready for what is the next level. Your organization can grow with generalists, but your organization will scale with specialists. So it's extremely important to keep the talent density high. Like, so avoid hiring. No, this candidate, yeah, it's not perfect. Let's bring on, like, this is extremely hurtful for your organization in the long journey.
I agree. Yeah, totally, mate. 100%. We're at the coalface every day talking to VPs and CTOs, and one of our really good clients, AvidBots, we placed like 14 people with them in the last 12 months. I was chatting with him a couple of weeks ago. He's like, Adam, I need like 50 engineers. And I'm like, where? One, these people do not grow on trees. These are really specialist robotics developers. And one of our other CTOs had said as well, he's like, we have 6 engineering roles open, but I'm not just going to hire people quickly to get the job done, because if you hire one bad egg and he's sitting on a team and he starts or she starts rubbing people the wrong way and frustrating people, that bad egg can upset the whole apple cart, and then you've got people leaving, and so one bad hire can actually result in more trouble than it's worth. So I think it's super important, get the culture fit right. What I was going to say, our CTO friend said as well, he said, I can teach someone Ruby, I can teach someone Python or React or Node. What I cannot teach is their work ethic. What I cannot teach is someone attention to detail. How does Jim work by himself? How does Jim work as part of a team? How does Jim work under pressure, under pump, under deadlines? Those intrinsic kind of personal traits are so important because everyone can learn to code. It's do you have those kind of core personality traits and that work ethic? That's what's going to separate the good from the great.
I agree a lot. Like, and this is the thing: you hire engineers because of their technical skills, but you let them go because of their behavior. So, like, it's important to have like a very good balance because, like, culture in the end, it's what matters. Like, it's what you believe. It's how people interact to each other. Like, and you can have a piece of paper with your culture, but like, if you don't live by those words, if you are not like as an example, like your culture like will not become something great. Like you'll become just a paper, right?
You walk into some office, well, people don't walk into offices anymore, where I used to go on client meetings and I'd see, enthusiasm, tenacity written on the wall. And it's like, these are our cultures and our values. And then it's like, do you actually live those, or is this just something that looks nice on the wall? I think culture is something that everybody is responsible for, and it's something that you live and breathe every day. You have a problem. How do you solve that problem? That's going to speak as to the culture. Are people frustrated, or are people coming together? That speaks to the culture, and I think it's super important, and it's important factor. Not everybody's. Some people tell me, "Oh, I want to work at a bank." I'm like, I wouldn't. Like, there's so much corporate enterprise layers. Some people love that environment, so I think it's important to understand who's going to fit where as well. We've got a question in the chat here. Zashan, 3 from 3 trifecta. What a champ! He needs a beer, Zashan. Zashan has said, how do you identify unnecessary complexity versus complexity that is needed? That's a good one.
Oh, definitely. This is a very good one. Like, I think like I like to see complexity in a spectrum, right? Like, is this creates friction, or this is actually accelerating something, right? One of the things like we did at Vtex, for example, it was like our engineers, they do travel a lot. Like, this is extremely common. Like, not now because of COVID, but like this now the world like it's kind of get regular. People still back traveling or like having expenses, and we had a policy, a very strong process. Like, hey, you need to do this, you need to submit to a tool, you need to do that, and then we said, why we're doing that? Like, this is like people during the work, they spend time that they could do like something that is creative, like but they spend 1-2 hours to create like a travel report. Like, no, we like should make sure that people they lead by context. Like, this company is yours. Like, we give you are a shareholder of this company. Like, we don't have this control anymore. Like, if you said that you spent like $200, $2,000, okay, you spend like $2,000 in this trip. Like, you just put like, oh, I spent that. Like, I spent $2,000. I can report this, and you get your reimbursement. Like, because we are so focused in the density of our talent. Like, you don't need to have this control anymore, right? Like, and then like when another example, when I see that necessary complexity, it's very common when the teams are starting, they have zero process, right? Because they are very small. They are just running, and then 5, 6, 7 people, 8, 9, and they are just running 10 people, and then, oh, it's time to talk to the leader. Hey, my friend, how do you know that your team is healthy? How do you know that like you are getting the best from your team? How do you know that like you need more people? What are the skills that you should develop? Like, it's in the other way. Like, about travel reports, I try to see like what is the friction that we have in our organization, right? And then for the other situation, it's how can accelerate growth of our marketing? Because, my friend, if you don't know if your organization is healthy, like, how do you know that you need to hire more people? How do you need what you should do? So process sometimes it's to help people to accelerate growth. Because in the beginning, no, I can know my team is healthy. I talk to all of them. Like I have one-on-ones, I see them. But like, and when your organization become like with 20, 30, 40, we need to start small, but thinking that we will and be prepared for it. Like, and this is what I said. Like, if you don't be intentional about your growth, you are being unintentionally about decline. So, spectrum, accelerate growth, or solving friction. Solving friction, I'm removing, fighting for simplicity. Accelerating, like I am putting a smart process on the way. I hope that this answer